Good morning. Welcome to Sacred Enzyme. I'm Stacy. I hope you're doing well today. Today I have an interesting subject that I'd like to share and talk about, and I want to talk about the information that I've been reading about that has to do with what's called the bicameral mind. And I run across this because I've been reading a lot of stuff on the ancient Celts, and the interesting thing I ran across was this topic about the bicameral mind. And this has been some research that was done, and there was actually a book that was written, and the author, his last name was Jaynes, Jaynes, Julian Jaynes, and he explores the nature of consciousness. And he puts forth a hypothesis, which I think is a very interesting one, and that is that, and he also mentions Velikovsky's work, Manuel Velikovsky in Worlds of Collision, and I recommend that book because it's pretty informative. I picked that book up and I read it after I started watching Mud Fossil University, and Roger Spurs is a big proponent of the work of Velikovsky, so I had to check that out. But it's a really interesting book. And in Worlds of Collision, Velikovsky talks about how it would have been about 3,500 years ago that Jupiter, there's a red spot on Jupiter, and I really think that it's the womb of Jupiter, because you know these planets are living just like Mother Earth is alive. And in ancient times they worshiped the sun because they believed that the sun is alive, and I believe that it is too. I mean, everything contains energy, and energy is electric, and that's what gives life to things is the energy. And so Jaynes puts forth this hypothesis that when Venus came out of Jupiter, it scraped across Mars, and that's why there's that huge gorge that's on Mars. And then it came into the Earth's solar system. And so it's hypothesized that actually what happened was that the Earth passed through the tail of a comet. And but Venus came so close to Earth, but because of our field that's around our planet, and the fact that the Earth turns one way and Venus turns the other, it was just kind of like two tires going the opposite direction, rubbing against each other. So what happened was that this created an enormous amount of heat on the planet. It caused all the oceans to boil. But the other thing is that they were talking about that our planet was covered with a membrane. And this membrane is basically what made everything lush and tropical and beautiful on the planet, and that there were, you know, seed-bearing trees and everything that was growing on the planet everywhere, and it was like a Garden of Eden. So what ended up happening was this membrane burst. That was our firmament that they talk about in the Bible, because all of this information was taken from the Gaelic people. The Bible was stolen from the Gaelic people. They wrote it. They worshiped the sun. This is why you have this Zoroastrian fire. They had sacred fires because, and you have the whole story of Prometheus. It was put forth by the Greeks. The Greeks were just an offshoot of these original Gaelic people. The Anglo-Saxon is what they call it, Indo-European. All those people came from the Celts. Atlantis is just a buzzword that talks about the island that was inhabited by the Celts, the Gaelic people. So the bicameral mind, they talk about that when that catastrophe happened, that, you know, you have Noah and the whole ark story, but that people were a part of a bicameral mind, and that means is that they didn't have their own thoughts. Their thoughts came directly from source. You had no self-thought or, you know, interpersonal thoughts. Your thoughts came directly from source, basically. And this is how they were able to achieve such a high level of technology and advancement at the time, was because all of their thoughts came from divinely inspired from source. And so after we had this cataclysm and the earth was flooded and humanity was almost completely obliterated, You had the Gaelic people, Atlanteans, that went all around the world, and they helped repopulate the planet with teaching people how to farm and raise animals and the various different things. So the bicameral mind is interesting, and they talk of, and you can read the work that's on Jaynes, Jaynes, and how he describes the bicameral mind, but that's it in a nutshell. In a nutshell is that we didn't have the minds that we did now. So my thought is that what happened to the bicameral mind? Why did we lose our collective consciousness? And I think that I know why. I think it has to do with parapsychology. I think that people got parasites. And this is why humanity's brain has just, that we've had all of this evil creep in, that we've had all of this evil. And they like to say Lucifer, and the more I'm reading about it, I'm coming to find out that Lucifer is Venus, and that's the mother, that's the divine light, the morning star. It's not a demonic thing. And so we've been just completely brainwashed. Everything that we've been told is pretty much fiction. The Bible is an allegory, and it was used for mass population control and world domination by people whose brains were filled with parasites. And, I'm going to share some of my stories about the things that I've encountered that some people call supernatural. And, I'll talk a little bit more about that. I've tried to keep this on an educational level, and I insert some of my, some of the things that I've been told, divinely inspired, or however you want to say it, from my guides, my guardian angel, my family members, my ancestors, that have crossed over, that have shared information with me, and my friends. I have a lot of friends and family that have crossed over, and they come back and talk to me. And I ask for travel in my dreams, and a lot of times I'm traveling with my mother, and I'm very connected with my mother's family line. And my mother family line are old Scots Irish people. They come from my grandmother. I was tracing back her maternal lineage, and she goes back to this time in Ireland from what's called O'Brien. And it's funny because my brother's name was Brian, and my grandmother just loved the name Brian, and she was a clairvoyant. So it doesn't surprise me at all that would be the original clan that she came from in Ireland, is the O'Briens. She named her one son, his middle name was Brian, and my mom named my brother Brian. So it's just funny how all of these things come around. And my daughter, her name is Annalise, and as I've been studying more of my family history on my dad's side, because we come from King Robert the Bruce, that he was the lord of this place called Annandale, which I crack up because, you just can't make this stuff up, but the humans are host to all kind of different types of parasites, but parasites come from eating animal flesh, and they've been able to find these parasites. I was looking at this clinical microbiology review in the American Society for Microbiology, and they're talking about how basically the time period that we're talking about is after this cataclysm took place. That this is the mummies and different things that they found that have parasites in their body. And I think it was because we were eating animals. We were eating animals. And the reason that animal eating started was because we had a cataclysm and everything was covered in water. And, they had to go inside the earth. And this is why there were people living inside of the earth. And the Ark of the Covenant, or not the Covenant, the Ark, Noah's Ark, wasn't a boat, and it didn't land on Mount Ararat. If you take the word Ararat and you turn it backwards, you get Tara Ra. Tara is a hill. It's now Newgrange, and there's a huge ancient artifact there of a building that's been rebuilt, but it predates the Egyptian pyramids, which were built by the Celts, by 3,000 to 500 years. And so if you look at that timetable, oh, and the other thing is that they found that this structure was watertight. It was watertight. And the reason it was watertight is because they built it, and it's theorized that there were 10 other or more places that were around the earth that were built. And if you go to some of these old ancient archaeological sites where they have these massive blocks that you can't even slide a sheet of paper in between, and then some of these places that they found in the earth that have these huge stones that roll, and it makes these places impermeable to water, you'll find that this is how these people survived that deluge, is that they knew, because at the time, in that time before we had that flood, is that the planets were closer to the earth. And you know, when Venus got right next to Earth and the two intertwined, that it changed the orbit and the axis of our Earth, and it busted the membrane that was the firmament that was around the planet. And so you have to go back and look at a lot of these words that have been perverted by the Roman Catholic Church, because they stole the Gaelic's history. They stole the Irish people's history. It's been stolen from them, and everybody's waking up to this. And I ordered some books, and when they come, I'm so super excited. We're going to do a total full book reading on these, because the information, I've been reading them online, and the information on here can change the whole world, the way that we think, and bring us into the golden age. I mean, this age is all about knowledge, and it's all, you know, in the Aquarian time, the age of Aquarius is the time of the lily. And we've talked about the time of the lily, you know, going back to the readings from Edgar Cayce, is that the time of the lily is now, and the lily is a perfect plant. It represents the time many eons ago when people were one. They were not male and female. They were the divine Holy Trinity in one. And that they separated as they became more crystallized into the human form. They turned into crystals, basically. That's why we have crystals in our body. But I think that it came from parasites. I think that we're not intended to consume blood and eat animal flesh. And there's no reason for us to do that, you know. But we have to get our hands dirty. We got to get our hands back in Mother Earth and start planting and growing and saving ourselves, folks. There's no one coming to save us. Knowledge is coming. God is not a man sitting in a chair floating on a cloud. And if you think that you can just put all your faith in the fact that somebody's going to rescue us, you're going to be sadly mistaken. It is up to ourselves to tap in to the Divine Mother, which is our consciousness. It is our essence. It's our spirit. And get these downloads that used to be a natural thing that fed the minds of the people and gave them divine wisdom and knowledge. And that's why they were able to build these beautiful structures. And these people were the Templars. The Templars. This is where the Templars come from. The Templars and the mystery schools. All that teaching was just stuff people automatically knew. But then after the cataclysm, it traumatized the planet, and their vagal nerve was traumatized. And see, this is when you had that separation happen, is trauma. And like I've said over and over again, we've got to deal with the ancestral and generational trauma. We got to talk to our ancestors. We got to work this stuff out. We got to deal with our own traumas too, because the stuff is perpetuated generation after generation after generation. And we're in a time of good and evil, folks. It's a time of good and evil is losing its grip, and things are only going to get worse. Internet, I wouldn't be surprised if we had a complete internet disconnection. And the reason I say that is because a lot of people that are bringing forth this information of truth, they're being censored, they're being removed from platforms. So when that continues to not work anymore, what's going to happen is they're just going to pull the plug, folks. And then where are we going to be? We got to get back into our communities. We've got to get back into the home. We have to bring back the mother and the father into the home. And we have to stop taking, life, the human life, so lightly. You know, ladies, stop aborting your babies. You know, what do you think happens? All of those baby parts, you know, they're used for stem cells. There's a reason that Planned Parenthood charges for birth control and gives free abortions. And then they donate millions upon millions of dollars. This nonprofit place donates millions upon millions of dollars to one political party. Okay? Wake up, folks. Wake up. So I'm going to end this video on the bicameral mind, but I'd love to hear what you have to say. And I think that it all goes back to our diets, to trauma, and everything. And it's time to work it out. It's time to work it out. So when you come and find me, I'll be here, because we're living in the past, the present, and the future all at the same time. And don't forget to go outside today. Take off your shoes. Put your feet in the grass. Set your intentions for today and say, this is going to be a beautiful day. Give thanks to the Universal Father and the Mother Earth. So I hope to catch you on the next one, and thank you for watching Sacred Enzyme. Bye-bye.